This is one thing that separates the truly high level achievers from everyone else. It's their ability to learn. Now, some people think that they can't learn, they're not good at learning. They've tried reading tons of books and it just doesn't work. But see, there's a key difference here between reading books and actually learning something. There's reading is gathering information, going on the internet and looking things up, watching a video course like this one, listening to an audio. This is all gathering information. But gathering information isn't learning. And a lot of people, I think, mistake that. They think they have to have all this intellectual knowledge first before they ever get started doing anything. But realize that gathering information is not learning. Experience is learning. It's taking that first step where you start experiencing what you've read, what you've done. You're putting it into practice. Because only through experience are you really going to learn something. See, I think one of the biggest problems that I had in school was for any subject that I was having a difficult time with, the learning portion of it was I didn't have anything to immediately use what I learned. So if I'm learning different things in math, but I don't have anything to apply it to, how am I going to learn it? The only thing that you're using it for is to do well on a test. So after you memorize the information and you regurgitate it back on the test, have you learned anything? Well, if you forget it because you have no reason to use it, then I would say, no, you didn't learn anything. You learned how to memorize something, maybe, which memorization is a great skill. But memorizing all sorts of information that doesn't matter, that you're never going to use, is a complete waste of time. This is why it's so difficult in the beginning when you're trying to learn something. Because what most people do is they go online and they get all sorts of different free information, the free reports, the free video downloads. They're reading book after book after book, and they're absorbing all sorts of information. They're gathering it. They've got everything together. But the problem is what they're thinking. Because they're thinking, I need to have all the information together before I can take that first step. And the problem becomes, if you're trying to gather information before you take the first step, then what are you using that information for? If you don't know, then you have no reason to take that first step. And you're constantly feeling like you don't have enough information yet. And so what do? You end up collecting more information. See, there's two types of people. There's the type of person that's going to read about something and go and implement what they learned. And then there's the type of person that realizes when they've read something and it comes time to implementing, that's going to be kind of hard, but it's easier to keep reading. And so they keep feeling like there's some magical tactic out there that's going to make all those things way easier than it is right now. It's going to completely make the work non-existent. So they keep searching for that, feeling like if I don't find it, I'm missing out. It's this trick, it's this secret that somebody else knows, and I don't know it yet. And if I don't know it, then I'm missing out, and I'm putting in all this extra effort, and it doesn't even matter. And remember, we've talked about this, where somebody fears that loss of effort, that I put all this effort in and I didn't get the reward back out. And that's kind of a transactional mindset. But really, we want to look at how can I take the information that I've just learned and put it into practice? What do I need to know right now, rather than getting distracted by all the different things that are out there? See, if we're only looking for information, it's high distraction season because distractions are coming from everywhere. It's a different technique from here. It's a different technique from over there. It's this new technique that you just learned. It's this new technique that's coming at you. And the question is what are you using all these new techniques for? You read about a whole ton of these things, but yet you have nowhere to actually implement them. So you feel like you're a constant student, gathering tons of information, but it's information that you never use. And I heard this put really well one time, where they said, when you start looking for information before you take action, you don't have any context of where to use that information. So one of the better ideas would be is to take action, get some experience, and then figure out what is it that you don't know. What is it that you need to learn? And then you can go look for that information because now you have context around using it. So if we're talking about it from a sales perspective, somebody goes out and says, I've got to memorize 50 different closing techniques, 50 different closing lines to make sure that I am perfect when I get on the phone. And I guarantee you, what they're thinking, the imagination that they have is being able to close 100% of people, to never have that awkward moment where they don't know what to say, to where every single person they get on the phone with is bam, immediate close. And that's not realistic. Even the best salespeople will tell you 10% of people will never buy from you. 10% of people will always buy from you. But what you're trying to focus on is that 80% right in the middle. Those are the people that might be on the fence, and you've got to talk to them and figure out what the best thing for them is. But you learn that through experience of talking to people and having those conversations. Because if what you're doing is constantly reading books on how to close a sale, but yet you don't have anybody on the phone or anyone you're talking to in person, then you have no sales to close. You've got all of this information and nowhere to use it. It's like going to Home Depot and buying yourself 6 or 8 different kinds of hammers, and yet you have no project that you're working on or anything to put together. You're just collecting them and then hoping that one day you might actually use it, which means you're going to be collecting a lot of stuff and really not using any of it. This is the exact reason why I was an absolutely horrible magician. Absolutely terrible. Because I was fascinated by magic. I loved the illusion. I loved the amazement that the audience had when the illusion was pulled off. And I said, you know what? I want to do that. That's really cool. And so I would buy all sorts of different tricks, all sorts of different illusions. And I would see how it was done. So I would know what's going on. But then here's where I really messed up, is that I never wanted to practice it. I never wanted to get really good at performing the illusion. I just wanted to know how it was done and figured as long as I knew, then that was going to be enough. And I could kind of just try and do it halfway, right? But halfway in magic is BS. Because that's exactly when people start calling you out on it, because they see how the trick is done. Now, some of them, it looked like it was too difficult. It looked like this should be something that was easy to do. But it's not easy. Anyone that's good at magic is going to tell you they've practiced that illusion hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times to get good at it. They've learned through experience of performing the trick, performing it in a mirror, practicing it in front of other magicians so it gets really, really good. Not buying it, trying it one time, and then saying, okay, I'm ready for the performance to wow people, right? It's absolutely terrible at magic. And that particular thing, is a case where I myself was gathering tons of information and never actually used any of it. So, is this you? Have you been on a path of gathering tons of info, of feeling like you didn't have enough information? Realize that's literally everyone. Everyone has felt that at one point or another. But the trick is to take a step forward even though you don't know everything. And you don't have to. Just by you taking a step forward and getting some experience, then you start to understand the concepts. You start to understand how things actually work in the real world versus what it is just in a book. See, this is why looking at traditional education is good and bad. Traditional education is great because it's got a place where there's tons of information. Tons of information can also be found on the internet. So whether the information actually works in real life, in a real life situation, that's to be determined. Because doing something inside of a classroom is one thing. Practicing it, being able to run different scenarios, right? That's using information in a controlled environment. But until you actually get out there and test it in the real world, you have no idea if it works or not. Everything works in a book. Everything works in videos online. Everybody's showing you step by step, this is how you do it. Now, whether it truly works in the real world or not, that's dependent on you actually experiencing it, making the mistakes, getting through those really weird, awkward moments, and feeling more confident on the back end because you realize you went through it. You had different experiences. You got better with it through trial and error. See, if we're talking about sales and you don't sell the first 3 people, that doesn't mean that you're terrible at sales. It means you're still learning. It means you're still gathering that experience. So, as we've talked about before with our success ratio, how many times are you willing to fail before you get one win? And the more times you're willing to fail before that one win comes, the better the chance you have of actually achieving it. Because you're getting experience. You're learning by going through the motions in a real world scenario with live people, rather than in a classroom setting where everybody is already kind of scripted as to what they're going to do. They're going to throw you softballs. They're going to throw you hardballs, but they're going to have told you what the answer is ahead of time. All of this to say, if you are in the mode of gathering information right now, you are ready for a mindset shift. You're ready to start getting out there and using that information. So I challenge you right now, if you've been just gathering information this entire time, if you've been writing down tons of notes but still haven't implemented any of it, I challenge you to find a spot, find a piece of information for you to take that first step on and use it. Because when you use that information, when the information that you're gathering is applicable to a problem you have right now, this minute, that you need to solve, that information becomes absolutely and infinitely more valuable to you because you're actually going to use it. How many times could somebody tell you how to be successful, and yet you still go to somebody else and say, well, wait a minute, this guy told me how I can be successful. And then I went to a second guy who told me how to be successful. And now I got a third opinion over here. And all 3 of them said completely different things. And they may all 3 be right. But you never know because you didn't use any of the information that they told you. See, it doesn't pay to gather this information, right? Anyone that says knowledge is power doesn't truly understand it. Because it's not the knowledge that's powerful. It's the implementation of it. Applied knowledge is power. Doesn't work unless you use it. And something that I've always said is information that you have that you never use, it's only trivia. A piece of trivia for you. Do you know who is on the $10,000 bill? Yes, there is a $10,000 bill. They have over $1 million. I don't know if this is still in Vegas. They had at the Golden Horseshoe Casino $1 million in $10,000 bills. Who's the face on the $10,000 bill? Salmon P. Chase. Believe it or not, a little piece of trivia for you there. And I say it's trivia because I have known this fact for decades, and I have still not made a single dollar off of it. Right? So it's just trivia. It's stuff that you know that you're not using. So I want you to make a commitment to yourself right now. For the information that you decide to gather, make sure that it's something that truly will impact your life right now. Something that you need to know right this minute to move your project forward wherever it is you are. Because the difference between truly learning something and just gathering information is action. Right? One more time. I'm just going to stress on this one more time. Books, reading books, listening to audios, watching videos. They're great. Looking stuff up on the internet. That's fantastic. As long as you have a spot that you're going to use it right now. Not later. Not a year from now. Not when something else happens. not after you make your website. If you haven't made the website yet, then this information over here you don't need it yet, right? We've got to take action on it. And so while it's great to gather information, that's not the same as learning. Don't fool yourself on that. Make sure that you start taking those steps. Take that first step forward today. Use that one thing that you learned today to move yourself forward. And then that, my friend, is when the learning truly begins. When you learn through experience and through action and not just gathering information. So, this is our 87th episode. Oh my gosh. We're 3 days away from achieving 90 days of making these videos every single day, which was my goal for this 90-day challenge. How close are you coming to your goal at the end of 90 days? I'm so excited for you. And especially if you've been with me since the very first video, going every single day and just getting a little bit better every day. Because that's what we're focused on, is something that we can set a goal. We can focus on that and we can take action every single day and achieve our biggest goals. So excited for you. So I'm going to see you again here tomorrow. I know you're going to be here. I know I'm going to be here. And until tomorrow, take action now.